media members who are joining us today on our press conference. Today, obviously, we're introducing Mike Poeta as the Fighting Illini wrestling coach. Our format today, we'll start off with Josh Whitman, Director of Athletics, offering a opening statement. He'll introduce Mike, who will have a statement, and then we'll take questions from Mike. And if there's any questions for Josh at the end, we'll bring him back on. We do know there's a lot of things going on within the athletics department right now. We hope that for any questions with Josh, and we do keep it to wrestling today, so we can respectfully take advantage of Mike's time regarding the announcement today and yesterday with our wrestling situation. So if there's any individual, any one-on-one interview requests that you have interest in, please contact John Peterson, who's our wrestling SID. He will help coordinate that with Mike's schedule over the next several days, and we can knock those out as well. So as soon as we're ready, Josh can step to the mic, and we'll go ahead and begin our press conference.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to join us today. It's obviously a landmark day in the history of Illinois wrestling. It's an opportunity for us to introduce only the third head coach that this program has had in the last 30 years. Tremendous young man that we're excited to welcome to the Illinois wrestling family, and our next head wrestling coach. But before I talk about the future of the wrestling program, I did want to take a moment to recognize the person who Coach Poeta will be succeeding, Jim Heffernan. I haven't had a chance to comment on Coach Heffernan publicly since the announcement of his retirement. Put very simply, he's one of the finest people I've ever had a chance to be around. He is someone who is intensely proud, very competitive, fiercely loyal. His decisions have always been started and ended with what's in the best interest of his students. And I think that what we have seen in the days that have followed his announcement has just been an incredible outpouring of support. And in talking with Jim, I know that he's really been touched by the communications he's received, the text messages, the phone calls, the emails from a lot of his former athletes talking about the difference that he made in their lives. And that's really what this is all about. And that's what Jim Heffernan has always been about. And it's been an absolute pleasure for me to have the chance to work with him for these last 5 years. And he has left a legacy here over almost 3 decades of work. And so I want to thank him. He's with us today with his wife, Rebecca. They're somewhere back there. There I see him. And I want to thank them very much for their many contributions to this wrestling program over these last 29 years. When Coach announced his retirement, I told the team that this would attract interest from some of the finest coaches in the country. And here we are now 2 weeks to the day later. And I was right. We've been fortunate here over the last 2 weeks to have the opportunity to sit down and visit with some of the most talented, qualified wrestling coaches in America. And I think that speaks to the program that we have built here, that Coach Heffernan built, and that Coach Johnson, who's also been good enough to join us today, built before him. But let's talk for a second about the reasons that interest is there, that why this job is so compelling to people. It's one of the most successful programs in the nation's premier wrestling conference, the Big Ten. I think we all understand what the Big Ten is nationwide in the sport of wrestling. We've got an incredible reputation for integrity. We've got a wonderful culture, again, thanks to the groundwork that's been laid by Coach Johnson, Coach Heffernan. We have tremendous student athletes here in our wrestling program. And I told the guys that when we visited on the day of Jim's announcement. They're what made this job compelling. They're what made this job interesting to so many qualified coaches. And it's all set, as we all know, against this incredible backdrop of one of the world's great academic institutions in the University of Illinois. Our tradition in wrestling speaks for itself. And we've won 17 Big Ten championships. It's second only to Iowa. And since 1993, which was the beginning of the Johnson-Heffernan era, our wrestling program's eighth in the country with 11 individual national championships. We're seventh in the country with 14 top 10 NCAA team finishes, and we've produced an All-American, at least one, every year for the last 28 seasons, including 23 NCAA finalists. To me, that's pretty impressive stuff, and it speaks again to the incredible tradition that is Illinois wrestling. In addition, we're committed as an athletic program to continuing to push wrestling to the forefront. Again, we're competing in the strongest conference in the country. Not only are we now onboarding a new head coach, we've committed additional resources to staffing. We've talked about now moving our home events from Huff Hall, where they've been for a very long time, into State Farm Center. I think everybody understands what that will allow in terms of our home event experience. That's a venue that our state high school wrestlers strive to compete in every day. And so for them to now come to the University of Illinois and have the chance to be in that venue day in and day out for their home competitions, we think is another exciting opportunity for the wrestling program. And then we're excited to sit down and talk with Coach Poeta about some of our facility needs. We have a few different ideas in the pipeline of different things we can do there to make sure we continue to move the needle for wrestling on that front as well. So through all these conversations, I mentioned we had a chance to visit with many qualified coaches over the last 2 weeks. Very quickly, Mike emerged as our leading candidate. And this was true for a number of reasons. I was taken with his vision for the program. Again, we've talked at length about how successful we have been. He has a vision to take us even farther, to advance us from a program that has been great to one that is truly elite, both within the Big Ten and across the country. He has tremendous energy and passion for this place. I know that he feels like he doesn't want to be a coach anywhere else than at the University of Illinois, and certainly that's something that I can appreciate as a fellow alum. As a native of our great state, he has strong connections throughout the state, both with high school club coaches. I think most of us understand that the state of Illinois is one of the most wrestling-rich states in the country. We're very fortunate to be located where we are, and his connections to this state are really second to none, and excited for him to bring the benefit of that to our program. He's creative. He's a problem solver. He's a learner. I was really impressed with a number of the ideas he had for places where we could improve, or he's looking to grow and improve himself. And then I was impressed with the overwhelming support that we received, just an outpouring of support from the current team, their parents, from alumni, from state high school coaches across the state here, as well as recruits. You never hire somebody into these positions because they're an alum, but it certainly is nice when you're able to get that done. And Mike will join pretty elite company in our head coaching staff. He'll be the fourth Fighting Illini former student athlete to join our head coaching ranks. He'll join Mike Small, Renee Sloan, and Justin Spring. And I think certainly we all understand the wrestling career that Mike enjoyed here for the Orange and Blue, but I'll hit on a couple of those highlights. He was a member of our 2005 Big Ten championship team. You're in four letters here from 06 to 09. He was a three-time All-American, one of only 14 in our school's history. He was a two-time NCAA finalist. He was a two-time Big Ten champion, two-time team captain. Speaks, I think, to his leadership skills. 3 times he was named our most valuable wrestler. He finished his career here with 105 victories. And so it's no overstatement to say that he is one of the finest wrestlers to ever don the Illini singlet. And that's something that we're obviously very excited about. And so without further ado, I want to thank Mike and Callie, their 4 children, including their baby daughter, Regan, who Coach Heffernan is holding in the background. She's only 2 months old, for trusting us and agreeing to take on this new and exciting responsibility. And without further ado, would invite Mike Poeta to come to the podium as the new head wrestling coach of the Fighting Illini. Mike, come on up.
Way to start. So yes, Coach Heff is holding my daughter back there. I think he's practicing for grandpa duties that will be in the near future. I am honored and consider myself extremely lucky to be standing up here as the next head wrestling coach for the University of Illinois. It was a dream of mine to come here as a wrestler. It was a dream of mine to come back as an assistant coach, and now an absolute dream to be the next head coach. The support and the attention has been amazing, but at the same time, I'm ready to get back to the wrestlers, and it's all about them. I want to thank my fiance, Callie, and our 4 wonderful children. We had a daughter 1 month ago, and as a wrestling coach's daughter, she is very, very cool because she was born the day after the NCAAs. She allowed me to watch Lucas Bird and Dylan Duncan take 5th in the country. So, Regan, thank you. I want to thank our athletic director, Josh Whitman, Chancellor Jones, and Warren Hood for their leadership in this great opportunity. I want to thank my mom and dad, my family, former coaches, and the countless people along the way that supported me. I need to give a special thanks to Coach F, who I've learned so much from in the last 4 years. He has led with integrity and represented this university the way that it should be. He's been instrumental in my life, and I hope to make him proud. I'm in a very unique position of inheriting a great, promising young team. Coach F has set the table for me, and just like Josh said, my goal is to take a great team to an elite team. We've had 28 years in a row of All-Americans, 29 if you include Travis Piotrowski in the COVID year, who put together a great season and definitely kind of deserves to be in those stats and that category. And we ranked 7th for the most individual national champions over the past decade. So just a very, very lucky position to be taking over a program like this. When I wrestled here, we won the Big Tens, and that's a place that I expect this program to be at again. Right now, just the foundation of young superstars, of Lucas Bird just taking 5th in the country, the Bronigal brothers, Michael Carr with his veteran leadership. We have a great foundation that is ready to have some success in the near future. I have an opportunity to bring in another assistant coach, which I will be spending a lot of time and thinking a lot about bringing in the right guy for our program. I'm fortunate and lucky enough to retain Jeremy Hunter and Brian Medlin. They have been so instrumental to our program. They are great role models. Jeremy Hunter has personally developed NCAA champions and countless All-Americans. Brian Medlin has just taken our RTC to such a high level that rivals some of the other RTCs, the best ones in the country. I have a lot of ideas on how we can get our program to that elite level. And the top priority of mine is to keep the Illinois kids and recruit them and keep them home in the state of Illinois. As Josh kind of mentioned, I have a great relationship with all the high school and club coaches in the state. We're very fortunate that a lot of our alums, there's a large portion of them that are coaches in the state. So that connection and those relationships will be very important for us and will help us out a lot. In the state of Illinois, we have the strongest youth program in the IKWF. The high school kids are always ranked in the top in the country. And it is my job to make sure that they know that this is the best program for them and can give them what they want. And you guys will be hearing from us. We will be calling you guys. The State Farm Center I'm so excited to be able to wrestle there in the future. I am excited and think about large crowds there and our guys just kind of rocking in a new environment that will be new to the Illinois wrestlers. And for the wrestlers in the state of Illinois, the State Farm Center is the mecca to us. Nothing is more important to us. So that is something that I know the state of Illinois kids will love, the opportunity to continue wrestling in their career in a place like that. Before I finish, I need to give a special thanks to former Illini Mark Johnson, Griff Powell, and Tony Siebert. Without them, I would not be standing here today. Mark Johnson and Jim Heffernan transformed the Illinois program, and I will continue all the underlying values that they have set up in this program. they have created an alumni base that was extremely successful, and they bleed orange and blue like I do. It's with the alumni, it's always been a family for us. And lastly, everyone in this sport across the country, in the Big Ten, in the country, they are extremely competitive, and that includes me. And it's going to be fun, and I'm excited to get to work. So join the fight.
All right. Thank you, Mike. We have several media members online here. If we could line up in the chat for questions, and we'll go ahead and get started for any questions for new head coach Mike Poeta. Jeremy, go ahead and lead us off.
Hey, Mike, congratulations. Obviously, you're taking over a program, as you said, where Jim did a lot of good things. What do you think is going to be your biggest stamp that will be different, though, moving forward?
I think we'll bring just a little more just energy and youth to the coaching staff. I think consistency is a big thing. I think all of our wrestlers and our incoming recruits have had enormous wins throughout their career, and we need to keep that at a consistent level where we're maintaining that. And that's how we will become one of the premier programs.
What is the strength of being in the Big Ten, and what is the difficulty of being in a conference with so many great programs?
Well, to me, there's nothing better than being in the Big Ten. For me, I want to be at the highest level of anything I do. And this is the premier conference. So yes, I want to be in this conference, but you're looking at teams like Iowa and Penn State on a regular basis. You're seeing them a lot, and it's going to be a challenge for me. And I'm really excited and looking forward to that opportunity.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Andy, you're up.
Hey, Mike, congratulations. You mentioned in that video that the wrestling account had posted how big of a deal the culture is, to your program. Do you feel pressure? I mean, taking that over from Coach Heff, and you mentioned how big he has been for the program as well.
I think culture is very important. I don't think you can have a successful team without a great culture. And we have that right now. And I think I need to do a great job of making sure I recruit kids who will come in and live the right lifestyle, wrestle and act and have the character that we want. So we have that right now. And then I think it's important for me when I go out and recruit to make sure that I see that in the kids and they will continue that.
And when you were a wrestler here, did you ever imagine yourself being in the place you are today?
No, there's no way. I mean, I can't even believe this. I've been driving even throughout the process of interviewing for it. I've been driving into work, like looking at myself, how am I in this position? I can't believe how lucky I am. So this is, back 17 years ago when Mark Johnson and Heff brought me in, this would have been a dream, but I did not know this would be a reality.
All right, thank you. Congratulations again.
Hey, Mike, just how much did maybe wrestling for Mark and Jim, then coaching with Jim, sort of shape how you view yourself as a coach?
Well, they were very different. Mark was very, very animated, and Coach Heff brought kind of more of a philosophical, laid back side to it. So I think that I learned from both sides of the spectrum, and they were just amazing coaches for me. So I think there's a lot of things that I can draw from them.
Is it daunting at all just to be the third ever coach in Illinois wrestling history and follow those two guys specifically?
Well, I think the third just in the past 30 years for those guys, and for kind of the more recent history of our program. And when Josh says the Mark Johnson and Jim Heffernan era, if the next thing is and the Mike Poeta era, I mean, I couldn't be luckier or ask for anything more than that to be included in that.
I guess one last thing. Josh mentioned maybe some facility needs that it could be addressed. What's on your wish list to maybe take Illinois wrestling to the next level?
Well, I would love to have an elite facility that compares and rivals the best in the country. But at the same time, we have a wrestling room, we have a weight room, we have a training room just like everyone else. And I think Jesse Delgado and Isaiah Martinez and all the All-Americans we've had recently have proved that it's not the facility that wins. It definitely helps with recruiting. I think everyone knows that. But right now we have what we need to be successful in the meantime. But of course, just like anyone, I would love something something new in the future.
Mike, as we're coming out of this COVID era, I was curious, what has it meant to Coach Heff and yourself that Illinois has maintained its commitment to its Olympic sports and specifically wrestling? When we're talking about moving you into the State Farm Center and adding additional staff and adding additional resources, when we've seen 3 Division I wrestling programs cut during this COVID era, just what has it meant to you and your staff that Josh and this university has stayed so committed to that?
I think support is everything. So I appreciate the new things that Josh has brought to the program, the new things that he has elevated to allow me to help me bring this program to another level. And support is everything. And if you do not have it, I don't think you can be successful. So I'm very grateful for the backing that I'll have.
Is that it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Kent.
Okay, Jeremy, go ahead.
Hey, this one's for Josh. If Josh is willing to take it. Josh, you mentioned a little bit about why you liked Mike, but what did make you want to kind of stay in-house, and what made Mike that guy that you thought was the right fit for you and to take it to another level than maybe even what it's been at?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a change, one of the first questions I ask is, do we have somebody internal to the program that is somebody we should take a good look at? And certainly in the case of wrestling, because of the uninterrupted tradition we've been building here over the last 30 years, I think there was an interest on our part in seeing that culture, that tradition continue. But again, you don't want to do that just for the sake of consistency. You have to make sure you've got the right person, right? And so in this case, it didn't take long in our discussions with Mike to realize that he had that vision, he had the leadership capacity, he had the same values that this program has been built on for the last 3 decades, and that was really critical to us. And obviously, anytime you hire a first-time head coach, you're going to take some extra due diligence there and make sure that you feel like he's got the right infrastructure, the right wiring to be able to step into that role. And so we spent some extra time with Mike and really felt good that he was prepared to take that step. Everybody needs their first chance to step into that chair for the first time. And after spending as much time as we did with Mike, we felt really comfortable with him and and excited about his leadership.
And I know COVID kind of put the plans on pause, but I know wrestling was thought of as one of those that could be in the multi-facility with hockey or whatever it is. Are you looking at other options, or just take me through what the options are maybe for the facilities right now?
Yeah, I don't want to get into too many specifics, but we are looking at several different possibilities there. The multi-sport facility is still very much in the conversation, but we're looking at some other maybe more immediate and potentially more cost-effective solutions as well that might be a little more focused specifically on wrestling. So we're going to sit down and talk to Mike about a few different ideas and then crunch some numbers and see what might make the most sense.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
You bet.
Hey, Matt Stevens, go ahead.
Yeah, Josh, I'd just like to ask you the same question I asked Mike. We've had during this 13, 14-month COVID period where you've seen 86 Division I Olympic sports be eliminated, 3 in the Big Ten Conference, 3 wrestling programs, and you're able to stand up here and talk about additional resources for a wrestling program and adding additional resources for your other Olympic sports. One is that how do you feel like that, what it means to the university that you're not on that list of 86 schools that have cut programs? And 2, how do you think that has come about to where you're able to stand up here and talk about such things as additional resources and staying committed to the Olympic sports that you have?
I want to be careful that we don't compare and contrast too much with other institutions. I'm never going to put myself in another university's shoes. I'm not privy to their information. I don't know why, what their pressure points are, why they make the different decisions that they do. I have a lot of faith in my colleagues who sit in this chair in other institutions across the country. And I know as an athletic director, that's the hardest decision you could possibly make, is to eliminate sports. And so I'm sure that those programs that have done it one, it's not done without extended consideration, and two, I'm sure it's done with the heaviest of hearts. And so I understand that we're in the midst of an unprecedented situation, and people have to make really hard decisions in these moments, and so I recognize that. And why we haven't done it, I think that we feel strongly that we're committed to the programs we have. We're very fortunate here to have a robust tradition and history in 21 sports that have been part of our module now for at least the last 20 years. And I think that's an important part of our role in college athletics. Broad-based participation is a linchpin of college athletic program. And I think especially here in the Big Ten, that has been something that we've really strived for. We believe strongly in the educational elements of what we do and trying to provide that educational experience to as many student athletes as we can. They've made a commitment to us to be here, and we've tried to make a reciprocal commitment to them. And I think that any athletic director who would stand here and tell you that they haven't evaluated every option over the course of the pandemic probably wouldn't be entirely forthcoming. I think that you have to evaluate every possibility as you face a pandemic and as you face some of the financial challenge that the pandemic has brought. But ultimately, you've got to make the right decisions that you think are in the best interest for your own program. And here at the University of Illinois, that wasn't a direction that we were willing to go. In terms of the continuing to not only maintain the programs, but invest in them, support them, that's our commitment to them. I think if we're going to have sports, then our obligation to the student athletes and the coaches who are involved in those sports is to give them the chance to be successful. That's part of our commitment. We're not just rolling the balls out here to go out and play. I mean, we're here to compete at the highest level. And so we're continuing to look for ways to make strategic investments. Now it's different in some other sports. I think people always equate when they hear additional resources to some of the investments we've made in a football or a basketball. The reality is for some of our other sports, much more modest investments can garner even more meaningful results. And so we're in a position to make what we think are sound strategic investments that make sense for us financially, but that can potentially have very significant positive benefits for the programs that are involved.
All right, we'll go to Scott
Josh.
Ritchie. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, Josh, as you said, you kind of went through your due diligence, in the coaching search process. Was there a moment where it just sort of clicked that like Mike was going to be your guy, or was it more a cumulative maybe approach?
No, we talked to Mike early in the process. We had several sit downs with him. And I think it gave us some confidence because we came out of those meetings knowing, look, Mike's great. And we felt really good about Mike. And then it became just about everything's relative in a coaching search. And so, you've got Mike, he's excited about the position, we feel good about him. And so then it was just a function of essentially comparing everybody else that we talked to Mike. And it gave us a little bit of a different approach than sometimes we've taken in other searches, just because we did have that confidence level in Mike at such an early juncture. But it allowed us to have a frame of reference and a point of context from essentially the first day of the search, which was really a kind of a comforting place to start from.
And Mike kind of talked about continuing to elevate the program, and you as well. Just what's maybe your combined vision for what Illinois wrestling, could be in the future?
I think the vision that we have for wrestling is the same as the vision we have for every one of our sports. Every sport we expect to have a plan to compete for Big Ten and national championships. We expect that in every sport. Now, the difference is the starting point. Right? We understand that different sports are at different places in their trajectory. And so, wrestling for us has been a top 10, top 15 program in the United States. And so we're not that far from where we would like to be. And it's really about being strategic, being thoughtful, looking for places to make changes, to try and move the needle even further. I'm a big believer that you do what you always have done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And so I think we're always looking for ways to tweak and to modify, to improve. But I think we're closer in wrestling than a lot of people might realize.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we thank everyone who joined us today, and thank those who are watching on fightingillini.com. And congratulations to Mike, and appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.